Number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished viewers of Intervlog, today we welcome you to a special extended edition of our program. In this broadcast, we take a deep and careful look at unfolding events in Guinea-Bissau, a nation once again caught in the turbulent winds of political uncertainty. Our goal is to provide a neutral, verified, and interconnected narrative, as is characteristic of our channel's commitment to responsible journalism. In recent days, Guinea-Bissau has entered a new and precarious chapter in its political history. A group of military officers identifying themselves as the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order announced that they have assumed full control of the state. Their declaration, broadcast on national television, came during a tense moment in the aftermath of a presidential election in which both leading contenders, incumbent President Umaro Sissoco Embalo and independent challenger Fernando Diaz, claimed victory even before official results had been published. This dispute over legitimacy and authority created an atmosphere of confusion, apprehension, and suspicion among the population. It was in this atmosphere that the military leadership intervened, insisting that the conditions were, in their words, sufficient to justify the operation. Soon after, they suspended media activities, closed borders, halted the electoral process, and declared a strict 9-hour curfew beginning at 9 p.m. On Thursday, the situation escalated further. General Horta Nta Na Man, also known as General Horta Nta Na Man, was sworn in as the transitional president of the country, taking an oath during a ceremony held at the military headquarters in the capital Bissau. Soldiers lined the compound. The streets remained quiet, and businesses stayed shuttered as citizens sought safety indoors. The transition has drawn immediate attention from regional and international organizations. The African Union, AU, and ECOWAS condemned the military action, calling for the immediate release of President Embalo and other detained officials. The AU described the events as a direct disruption of constitutional order and urged a rapid return to legitimacy. As we examine the situation, it becomes clear that this is not simply an isolated episode. The developments fit into a long and complex pattern of political instability in Guinea-Bissau, a country with a history of coups, attempted coups, contested elections, and fragile institutions. Today, Intervlog seeks not only to report the facts, but to understand how these events connect and what they reveal about governance, the rule of law, and regional stability in West Africa. The crisis began building momentum shortly after the official closing of the polls. Two major political figures, President Embalo and challenger Fernando Diaz, declared themselves winners independently, raising fears of a contested outcome similar to past episodes in the country. As tensions escalated, gunfire was heard near key state institutions, the Election Commission headquarters, the Presidential Palace, and the Ministry of the Interior. It was after this moment that the military announced it had seized control, citing security concerns and the need to restore order. Soon afterward, President Embalo reportedly spoke to foreign media, confirming that he had been deposed and that he was being held at the General Staff headquarters. His exact location, however, remained unconfirmed. The next day, General Horta Nta Na Man, until then the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, stood before the nation as transitional leader. Observers noted that he appeared surrounded by influential figures within the military hierarchy, giving clear signs that his authority rested on internal military consensus. For many residents, the rapid shift of power brought echoes of previous cycles of instability. Businesses remained closed, banks shut down, streets that once bustled with vendors and local activity were enveloped in a tense silence. The swirl of uncertainty brought to mind a familiar Criollo parable, No kana na chuba undi chuba ka ten cabeza. Translation: we cannot plant something where there is no soil. Explanation: This parable means that political stability cannot grow in an environment without firm institutional foundations. If the soil, meaning institutions, trust, and the rule of law, is weak, instability becomes inevitable. Guinea-Bissau has long navigated the delicate act of trying to create solid ground for democracy. But each time progress seems within reach, it is disrupted by events that uproot expectations and restart cycles of uncertainty. Events of this magnitude seldom remain confined within national borders. West Africa has experienced several coups or attempted coups in recent years, from Mali to Burkina Faso, from Guinea to Niger. These have placed renewed pressure on ECOWAS and the African Union to enforce norms of constitutional governance. Both organizations reacted swiftly to the takeover in Bissau. The AU Commission chairperson condemned the coup, calling for Embolo's immediate and unconditional release. Observers from multiple election monitoring missions urged ECOWAS to take decisive measures to restore democratic order. The regional concern is not only political, but also security-related. Guinea-Bissau has long been described as a transit hub for cocaine trafficking, a factor that complicates political dynamics and raises fears about external influences and internal rivalries. Intervlog has always adopted a neutral tone, one that allows us to present events without bias. In that spirit, we highlight another Guinean Portuguese Creole parable that captures the delicate balance facing international mediators. Si buka tene kanja na chom, buka pudi manda chom na lume. Translation: if you have no water in your hand, you cannot tell the fire to go out. Explanation: this parable means that one cannot solve problems without the necessary tools or leverage. Likewise, regional organizations cannot restore order without cooperation from local actors, civic leaders, and military factions. The success of any intervention depends on internal willingness for dialogue and reconciliation. Without it, external pressure alone may not be enough to extinguish the flames of instability. The role of General Horta Nta Na Man. General Horta Nta Na Man's emergence as transitional president introduces another layer of complexity. His background as former chief of staff and his reported proximity to President Embolo raise questions about whether the military action was driven by institutional concerns, personal motivations, or internal divisions within the armed forces. His statement following the swearing-in emphasized urgency and the need for collective participation. Yet many observers remain uncertain about what direction the transitional leadership will take, especially regarding the suspended electoral process. Al Jazeera's correspondent in Senegal described the situation as one that throws the entire political process into question, noting that elections may not take place in the year to come. This presents a significant challenge, as the absence of a clear timeline could deepen political and economic stagnation. The complexity of this moment reminds us of another Criollo parable, Mon na chiga grandi, eka miste choma panu pamodi chuba. Translation: a child may grow, but he cannot wear clothes meant for an adult. Explanation: this means that leadership requires legitimacy and structure. One cannot assume authority simply because circumstances allow it. Institutions must be built to fit the responsibilities they carry. The transitional presidency may hold power for now, but its long-term legitimacy will depend on transparent governance, inclusive political dialogue, and a roadmap for returning to constitutional order. Even though the political headlines focus on institutions, power struggles, and international reactions, the human stories underlying the crisis remain significant. Residents of Bissau, like citizens in any nation facing conflict, are dealing with uncertainty. Markets are closed. Work has been interrupted. Families remain indoors out of caution. Those who rely on daily trade for survival face additional hardships in moments like these. Political instability, regardless of its origin, always affects ordinary people the most. Their daily rhythms are disrupted. Their economic security is shaken. their sense of safety becomes fractured. It is important to acknowledge this dimension in any analysis of national crises. Behind every headline lies a community trying to make sense of rapidly changing circumstances. To fully understand the recent developments, we must situate Guinea-Bissau's crisis within a broader regional context. The West African sub-region has faced multiple governance disruptions over the past decade. Many of these have been driven by concerns about electoral credibility, institutional weakness, military influence in politics, and the pressures of economic hardship. Guinea-Bissau's recent coup did not occur in isolation. It follows long-standing patterns of contested power, long-standing suspicions within the political class, and concerns about corruption and security. One might say, using another Criollo parable, "Corson come fruta, mas tronco curais stata sufri." Translation: the branch eats the fruit, but the trunk and the roots suffer. Explanation: this means that while leaders may enjoy the benefits of power, the consequences of instability fall heavily on ordinary citizens and the nation's foundational structures. The coup, the disputed elections, and the suspension of constitutional processes all contribute to systemic strain. For regional institutions like ECOWAS and the AU, the challenge is not only to respond to each crisis, but to understand the patterns that make such crises frequent. What comes next? At this stage, many questions remain unanswered. Will General Horta Nta Na Man outline a clear transition roadmap? Will President Embalo be released? And what will be his political future? Will the electoral process resume? Or will the military maintain control for an extended period? How will the international community respond beyond initial statements? What effects will the crisis have on regional stability and economic activity? Intervlog commits to monitoring these developments closely, providing accurate and impartial updates as more information emerges. The road ahead for Guinea-Bissau is uncertain, yet history shows that nations can overcome crises when dialogue replaces confrontation and institutions are strengthened rather than undermined. As we conclude this extended introductory narrative, we return to the essence of Intervlog, providing calm, balanced, and contextualized reporting during moments of uncertainty. The situation in Guinea-Bissau is fluid, but by understanding the sequence of events, the motivations of key actors, the regional implications, and the human impact, we gain a clearer picture of what is unfolding and what may lie ahead. We leave you with one final Guinean-Portuguese parable, offering both wisdom and perspective. No bieta chuba, mas ten que espera chuba para crematu. Translation: we may fear the rain, but we must also remember that without rain, nothing grows. Explanation: crisis may bring fear, but it can also bring the possibility of renewal, if the right choices are made. Thank you for joining us on Intervlog. We will continue to follow developments in Guinea-Bissau and across the region, bringing you clear, neutral, and insightful coverage at every step. Stay informed, stay balanced, and stay engaged. This is the end of our program today. See you on Intervlog, same time tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thank you for watching Intervlog. Thank you.